I find it hard to describe my walk with God because it changes with every decision that I make. I can choose to follow God and glorify Him, or I can give in to the pressures of this broken and sinful world. I try to think that I choose the latter most of the time, but the truth is that the most I can say is that I try, and I try to love. I grew up in a Christian home with parents that would take me to church. I can remember looking up at the lights when we would worship, and I remember accepting God into my life at some point. I considered myself to be a Christian, but I think it was more of a familiarity than a choice. The summer before my freshman year of high school, my parents got divorced, and the church I had grown up in finally disbanded after years of relocating and dwindling membership. I dealt with my parents' divorce by throwing myself into schoolwork, friends, and accolades, and running away from my family. My faith had never been tested, and so it weakened. I stopped going to church. I still went to youth group occasionally, but I never felt truly included, and so eventually I stopped going there too. I prioritized school extracurriculars and friends over God, and this created a distance. I had doubts and I wasn't pursuing answers. I wasn't seeking God. The summer leading up to my senior year in high school, God started to ripen me. I had put so much of my identity into school and accolades, and I was starting to wonder what those things really meant. That summer, I was asked at a RILA summer camp what my proudest achievement was. I spent days thinking about this, and as I came to an answer, my heart started to change. I began to realize that so much of what I had worked for in high school didn't really matter. I got home and boxed up all of my trophies and awards with a new idea of what my values were. Then I met Jared. He seemed to be really strong in his faith, and I was intrigued. I spent that whole first semester of my senior year thinking about God, but not quite ready to hand my life over. And then on December 12th, 2013, everything changed. It was a typical Thursday, and I was in the library when my friend Sarah approached me. She started talking about Jesus, saying that he was my best friend. I'd never talked about faith or religion with Sarah, and so this really surprised me. But the gears in my mind started to slowly turn. As I got into my car heading to an internship, I started to see the ways that God was faithfully pursuing me. I was passing the Lyman exit on the highway when I had what I can only describe to be an epiphany that had been building for months. Light was shining through the window of my car, tears were streaming down my face, and I was overwhelmed by God's grace. I was overcome with God's unfailing love and reassured that He was there for me. It became clear to me that God had been preparing me the whole time to meet Him. Just as I was reaching a pivotal moment in my life, changing the way I thought about school and success, I met Jared, who directed me to God. Less than 24 hours later, tragedy struck, and I clung to the truth that had been revealed to me. My fellow classmate and former co-captain of the Arapahoe speech and debate team, Carl Pearson, brought a shotgun to school. Another classmate of mine, Claire, was killed that day. Our library was left destroyed, and Carl took his own life. My foundation cracked. My whole world turned upside down. Suddenly, I was scared of the dark. Suddenly, I couldn't fall asleep alone. Suddenly, I was forced to face the hard truth that there is so much of this world that is out of my control. Not only did it seem like my life was spiraling out of control, I was also confronted head-on with how real death is. Going to Carl's funeral pushed me outside of the comfort of living day to day and into the prospect of something greater. I could no longer accept agnosticism, reverting back to I don't know, constantly. I stopped thinking about trivial things, because now there were bigger questions to ask. Why did Carl do it? Where are Carl and Claire now? What I truly believe to my core was revealed, that there is absolutely something greater, and that something greater is Jesus. I spent the week following the shooting reading a book called The Shack. Jared's dad had actually helped to write it, and I'd been meaning to read it for some time, and here was my opportunity. It just so happened that this book had within its pages exactly what I needed to hear. God was proving to me once again that He is my best friend, that He is there for me, and that His love is infinite. In reading The Shack, I learned that evil, suffering, and tragedy are the absence of God. With my whole heart, I believe that if Carl had better known God and his unfailing love, he wouldn't have made the unfortunate decisions that he did. As 1 John 4:8 states, "Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love." God supported me in my time of need, gave me clarity in a time of chaos, and led me to salvation.